When I try to teach people about personal branding, it's not so much I'm trying to sell you anything. It's mostly I want to know who the hell I'm supposed to be in this life, and I want to heal and to show up 100% as I am. And when I can do that, oddly enough, I seem to attract more people to me.
I have a studio of one right now, right? The vision is for it to be more. But I'm curious if I should be building my personal brand or the studio brand. Anyways, I'm just like, where should I be focusing to try to get some traction?
I'm still not sure if I fully am committed to this, what I'm about to say, but I'm not sure there's such a thing as a business brand. There's things that people refer to as a brand, as a business, but what they're referring to is the efforts of a collective team of marketers, writers, designers, creating an experience. It's a collective thing. You know what I mean? It's kind of these things, and I think a lot of us understand what brands do on a corporate level, which is to market to us. Their whole goal is to get us to do something. What I'm trying to do, and when people speak about personal branding, they use the same literal language from corporate branding and they bring it over to personal branding. They're designing whatever it is they're teaching you to go and help you sell more things. I don't know about you, but I'm just tired of people trying to sell me something. I'm just kind of like allergic to it now. And so when I try to teach people about personal branding, it's not so much I'm trying to sell you anything. It's mostly I want to know who the hell I'm supposed to be in this life, and I want to heal and to show up 100% as I am. And when I can do that, oddly enough, I seem to attract more people to me. If you've read Marty Neumeier's writings, especially in Brand Flip, he goes, we don't want to be sold things, but we love to buy. And as it evolves, he says, we don't want to buy, we join tribes because we're looking for connection and meaning in our lives. I'd just like to go into the history of branding a little bit, and you'll start to understand like why we are where we are and how we may want to have a different dialogue about it. And I'm telling you right now, for every single person who's here who wants to develop their personal brand, and if you do it the way I hope you'll do it, you'll have a competitive advantage over everybody else who's doing it the wrong way. And I'll just be as polarizing as like there's a right way and there's a wrong way. Okay, just to make the argument. For most of our civilization, whether you believe in creation or evolution, we've been around for a long time. We've had to procure our own food source and make our own supplies. And it's only in the last, let's say 100 years that we're going through this industrial revolution, industrial age, where specialization starts to happen. So we're no longer growing our own food. So what happens is we get into specialized skills and industrial manufacturing, things like that. There's a disproportionate amount of options that are happening. Now we're living in small towns. There's a local grocer, there's one, a general goods store, and there's only one kind of flour. And as more people specialize, competition happens. Now they have to distinguish themselves from each other, and they create identity. And it's just to distinguish them. So a point of differentiation, right? It makes sense. And as the small town grows into a really big town, the grocer no longer knows you on a personal level, can't make recommendations anymore. And so now that job is now put on the companies. So the company is now standing there with their packaging, with their design, the materials and the colors and the messaging. And so now we have all these options, and one company is trying to prevent the other company from being a counterfeit version, therefore damaging their relationship with their customers. Because they'll get upset and it's like, we didn't sell you that. This is the evolution of identity design, marketing, and then especially now in the 21st century, we don't have just one kind of flour or one kind of toothpaste. We have too many kinds of flour and toothpaste. And so the modern concept of branding, I think, is only like 30 years old or so. And it's been heightened by the internet and social media. Because now, instead of going somewhere and having limited choice, we have even unlimited choice. And so let's try to understand this then. Branding is preference. Branding is when I have an irrational emotional connection to a thing that I shouldn't have. But I do, because we're irrational, emotional people. We're creatures designed to really respond emotionally. So we kind of understand that, right? So everything that you need to understand about branding, I think I just told you in the story format. Differentiation and preference. And the way that I choose, because we are now wealthier than we've ever been individually. There's less disease. We're longer lived. We're healthier theoretically. So now we have more resources. We have more choice. And so instead of survival, we're looking for meaning. There's a quote from Anne Lappe, and she said that every dollar you spend is a vote for the kind of world you want to live in. When I buy Arrowhead versus Voss versus Fuji, I say I would like for those companies to thrive. I joke with my kids because my wife and I, we like this little Korean teriyaki chicken place called Teriyaki. They hate it. My wife and I, we love it. It's tasty, it's fresh, it's clean eating. And my older son's like, Dad, no. It's like, only you want to eat there. They're going to go out of business. I'm like, boy, they've been around in business longer than you've been alive. And I say, if they're going to go out of business, I'm going to go over there and buy 1,000 chickens. And now he's like, Dad, why would you do that? Because I want to support them. Why do I care about them? I don't know. I can't even tell you why. I mean, maybe because when I was an art center student or working around here, it was an affordable meal and I have some weird connection to that. Every time I take a bite, maybe it transports me back 30 years. I'm reminded of like my starving self. I'm like, this was good, still good today. So we have an emotional, irrational connection. Do you want people to have a preference for what you do? Probably. Then you have a brand. If not, you're a commodity. Now, here's what we know too. Every product has a story. Some stories are good, some stories are not worth mentioning. What's the story of Arrowhead, everybody? Okay, I'm staring at this bottle. I'm almost certain Arrowhead is just filtered water. What's the story of Fiji? Does anybody know the story of Fiji? It feels exotic. Who said that? Scott?
Exotic.
Yeah, it feels exotic because like I'm on vacation. And then they introduced this language. What did they say, Drigo?
Artisanal.
It's artisanal water.
Wow.
Untouched by humans, filtered through lava rock of the Fijian Islands. And then you know what they do? If you look at the bottle, first of all, the bottle's different. Most bottles look like this. Their bottle's kind of square. And on the back of the bottle, as you're looking through the water, you see a little bit of Fiji. You see what they're doing to you? As far as I know, this came from Colorado and came out of tap. But it's a good story. I don't know what this bottle of Arrowhead costs. I'm assuming not much. That's why we have it. It's like 35 cents. Bottle of Fiji is like $3. A bottle of Voss is like $5 because it has a different story. Why am I talking about all this stuff? What's your story? How manufactured is your story? What is the integrity and the authenticity of your voice? Is it there? I tell people I say dangerous things because I pretend like I know what I'm talking about. But as I look into this idea, there's Carl Jung and he talks about this, that there are two selves and it's regulated by our ego. Our ego manages who we're going to be in the world. There's the persona, which you're all very familiar with. It's who you pretend to be accepted in society. And all of us are in our persona. We are. It's undeniable. And then there's this other side where like, what are we managing then? On the other side of the persona is your shadow self. It's the ugly stuff. It's stuff that no one wants to talk about. It's the stuff that brings you shame and you feel like if you were to expose that, you'll be ostracized. And there's a good chance you might be. From childhood, maybe we're like 7 or 9 years old, you've gotten the persona put on you by your parents most likely. You know, as a kid, you've said it yourself if you have children, and it's definitely been said to you, don't stare at that person. It's not nice. That's just you being you. Or I want to eat that. Or I want to go there. And I think that person's funny. Or I think they're cool. You just say whatever it is you want to say because the ego hasn't been taught how to regulate how you show up in public, right? And like if you eat your boogers when you're 3 years old, people are like, don't do that. People are going to get freaked out. I'm like, but it's tasty. It's salty. Right? It's a good snack. It's all natural. It's non-GMO, right? And you're like, you can't do that. So we all stopped eating our boogers. So what happens is, when you show up and pretend to be somebody that you're not for long enough, you forget who the hell you are. And when we get into the personal branding stuff, all I'm trying to do is get people to remember. That's it. It's not invention, it's memory.